there was no Fantastic Four, there would be no Spider-Man,
Correct.
Iron Man, Avengers. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1961 created the Fantastic Four. The late 50s, 60s, superhero comics were kind of dying out. DC had that resurgence with Justice League. Martin Goodman, the publisher at Marvel at the time, he asked Stan Lee to create a team to compete. The Fantastic Four essentially was created to compete with the Justice League. At that point, they did not have a family dynamic in the comics. He created this team. They're not just a team of superheroes, they're a family.
It's kind of an interesting dynamic because the Justice League is not family.
Correct.
They're a bunch of individuals.
Yep.
So they created a family unit to compete with the Justice League.
November of 61, Fantastic Four 1 came out. It literally changed the game of comics. No secret identities. That was something that wasn't common in comics, right? Everyone had you had Clark Kent, you had Superman, you had Batman, Bruce Wayne. They were like, yo, I'm Reed Richards, like straight up. And they became like celebrities in the comics too.
Right.
You know, it's so different than what you see, like, you know, Spider-Man hiding his identity. These guys were on magazine covers. They were astronauts. Like, they were the shit, dude. They were like the Kardashians back then. You know?
Wow. Wow.
You don't like that comparison?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm offended.
All right. Fantastic Four helped Marvel become the #1 comic publisher by the late 60s. So DC was in second place again. Imagine if that happens again now. Like how, it'd be crazy, like time just repeats itself.
Right.
You got Superman who's like, oh, everyone's excited about DC, and then Fantastic Four comes out 2 weeks later and takes the #1 spot again. Right. I did some research, Adrian, into the Fantastic Four, and I got some fun facts here. So they were created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And the more you dig into comic history, you will realize why Stan Lee was a cameo in every Marvel movie until he passed.
Absolutely.
Because holy shit, this dude was a creator.
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
At this, I mean, what, Spider-Man, Iron Man, the list goes on, the X-Men.
Right. Just name some 99% chance he created them or he was part of the team with Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
That created them. And if not, they probably don't mean shit anyway.
Right. Or they probably ran it by him, you know? Like,
Right.
But dude, he was instrumental in a lot of the top characters you see today in the Fantastic Four. But this was at a point where Marvel, I didn't even think they were called Marvel yet, but Marvel was not kicking ass. You know, DC had just created the Justice League and they were dominating with the Justice League, right? So Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in 1961, they kind of call this the kicking off of the Marvel age of comics. They created the Fantastic Four. And the thing about Stan Lee and a lot of his creations, he tried to make sure what he was creating was something new and different.
Right.
At this point in comics, you had heroes and villains, and that's where most of the conflict was. We've had not seen at this point, I say we like I was alive back then. I wasn't alive in 1961. But at that point, they did not have a family dynamic in the comics. He created this team, and that sometimes I think gets lost on a lot of new people. They're not just a team of superheroes, they're a family.
Correct.
Husband, wife, or depending on what point, you know, boyfriend, girl, whatever. Johnny is Sue's little brother.
Correct.
And Ben's their best friend.
Right.
And they all went to college together. And then depending on what stories, Doom's in there as well, is like a college classmate.
Correct.
Right.
Or rival.
Or rival. Yeah, a little
Which
bit
is
of
actually Ben's fault.
Yes.
But, you know, that's another story.
Ben, dude.
We've covered that.
Yeah. But what happens there is you get this like dysfunctional family dynamic too.
Correct.
That adds to the intrigue of it's just not four superpower people fighting, you know, villains. And I think that was something that was new at the time. And you know, so we went over the four of them. You have Reed Richards, who becomes Mr. Fantastic. He's basically, remember them toys when I was a kid, like you just stretched them out and they went back to
Stretch Armstrong.
Stretch Armstrong, right?
Yep.
He's basically Stretch Armstrong,
Correct.
right? Yeah. And then you got Sue Storm, who becomes Sue Richards.
Correct.
She's Invisible Girl, Invisible Woman. And there's a lot of misconceptions about her too. A lot of people think she just turns invisible.
Correct.
That's her only power. Dude, she has these energy force fields. I mean, you did a hidden gem on her a while ago. But her power, it blew me away, the depth of what she can do.
Right.
Then you got her, you know, little brother Johnny, Johnny Storm, Human Torch, literally turns into a Human Torch. And then you got Thing, who's this kind of rock entity. He's a big old tank. He'll whoop your ass.
Correct.
So But going back to, actually, real quick, let's talk about how they got their powers. Now, this is one of the Fantastic Four is one of those, groups that there's all different origins, right? They rewrite it. But in a nutshell, they went to space. In one story, they stole the spaceship. They went to space during this whole, race to get to outer space. And in doing that, they were hit with some cosmic rays.
Correct.
And got their powers, right? There's so many different versions of that, but in a nutshell, that's what happened. But going to the real world, this was the late 50s, 60s. Superhero comics were kind of dying out. And again, DC had that resurgence with Justice League. Martin Goodman, he was a publisher at Marvel at the time. He asked Stan Lee to create a team to compete. So the Fantastic Four essentially was created to compete with the Justice League from a, business standpoint.
Which is, it's kind of an interesting dynamic because the Justice League is not family.
Correct.
They're a bunch of individuals.
Yep.
So they created a family unit to compete with the Justice League, which probably because of the run of Spiderman, because he was a kid that everybody could relate to.
Right.
So now let's create a superhero family that everybody can relate to.
Well, Fantastic Four came before Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. So this is what a lot of people feel literally saved. At the time, it was Atlas Comics. So before this, in 1961, they had like monster comics, romance, westerns. Like this shit was dead, dude.
Right.
It was like DC was before they put out Superman. Honestly,
still is. Nah, I'm just joking.
But so Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and I guess at this point, Stan Lee was about to quit the comic business. Like it's in the shitter, dude. It's not making money. And DC's having their little resurgence, but Atlas isn't doing a damn thing. But he was asked to create a team, so he did that. And this November of 61, Fantastic Four 1 came out. It literally changed the game of comics. At first, they didn't have costumes. They had no secret identities. That was something that was rather not, it wasn't common in comics, right? Everyone had you had Clark Kent, you had Superman, you had Batman, Bruce Wayne. They were like, yo, I'm Reed Richards, like straight up. And they became like celebrities in the comics too.
Right.
It's so different than what you see, like, Spider-Man hiding his identity. These guys were on magazine covers. They were astronauts. Like, they were the shit, dude. They were like the Kardashians back then.
Wow. Wow.
You don't like that comparison?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm offended.
Yeah, well, it happens, Adrian. I hear that someone...
Their fame, I understand their fame.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, that's what I was going at. They introduced a lot of characters in the Fantastic Four run. The Skrulls were introduced there. Namor was brought... So Namor was one of these characters that was created years ago as like some bullshit.
Right.
And then they brought him back into Marvel and really fleshed out his origin. But Namor was brought back from that golden age of comics here. In the 5th issue, they gave us Dr. Doom, who's gone on to be everyone's villain. We talked about this last week. Spider-Man, Iron Man, Avengers. They fought Hulk early on, and then the whole Galactus trilogy. They did a lot, dude. Wakanda and Black Panther first appeared in Fantastic Four. The Inhumans, Silver Surfer, and Galactus. You had things like the Negative Zone, the Watcher, Annihilus, Mole Man, Franklin Richards, Valeria. All this shit came from Fantastic Four comics. So it's crazy when you said, like, you don't expect them to make a movie about Fantastic Four. But, dude, if there was no Fantastic Four, there would be no Spider-Man, Iron Man, Avengers.
I don't know about Yeah, probably. I
mean, they had the formula. Like, what they did, and this literally launched Marvel Comics. I didn't realize how integral the Fantastic Four were to the comics.
Right.
Does that surprise you hearing that now?
It does. Yeah. It does. It's like, so... Stan Lee get ready to walk out. He creates this team. It becomes a success.
Yep.
And that allows the birthing of all of these directly associated Annihilus, Negative Zone.
Yeah.
But then, the Avengers, and so other superheroes as well.
Right.
That's amazing.
It didn't outsell Superman overnight, but it quickly built up a massive fan base, and then eventually it did. And this was, again, 1961. So the first 4 or 5 years, there were some of the big differences about their comics. these were heroes that argued with each other, made mistakes.
Right.
Like at the time, Justice League, they're perfect, dude. Superman shows up, we kick everybody's ass, we win. I mean, you know how the old shit was, right? Bad guys doing some stupid shit.
Right.
Hero comes, knocks them 3 or 4 times, they win. Like it was basic storytelling.
Correct.
And this was a lot more intricate where you got, you know, Reed at odds with Sue half the time, right? Spending too much time in all these rooms in the Baxter building and sci-fi plots, the emotional storytelling with action. Like it was a new day, dude.
Yep. So, cuckolding.
Yeah, what? Possibly.
Cuckolding?
Maybe.
Namor?
I mean, Namor. Dude, by issue 4, Namor's already there, bro. And then you got Doom, you know, he's like, you know, the new dad to your kids because you ain't around. I mean, at least Valeria. Wow. But dude, readers were hooked on this. The sales were blowing up. And then the peak, the Kirby era, this was 65 through 69. Jack Kirby's drawing these cosmic gods, alien worlds that like just shit that you've never seen in comics before, right? This is where Galactus was introduced, first appearance of Black Panther. Like, I didn't know that. Black Panther debuted in Fantastic Four.
Interesting.
Franklin Richards, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Him, who becomes Adam Warlock, debuted in Fantastic Four. They reshaped the game. And this is stuff that we've seen in, you know, big concepts like Galactus, the Watchers. That's not just a Fantastic Four thing anymore, right?
Correct.
The Negative Zone, the Microverse, Namor and Silver Surfer being anti-heroes, that was something that was newer. And then Doom the complexity of Doom.
Right.
That was, you know, one of those villains that half the time you're like, he ain't really a villain. You know, like you see at least where he's coming from.
Correct.
And he don't believe he's the villain. So, I mean, sales were through the roof. Fantastic Four helped Marvel become the #1 comic publisher by the late 60s. So DC was in second place again. Imagine if that happens again now. Like how it'd be crazy. Like time just repeats itself.
Right.
You got Superman who's like, oh, everyone's excited about DC. And then Fantastic Four comes out 2 weeks later and takes the #1 spot again.
Right.
I mean, it could happen.
I mean, it's so much so that these two companies, most people can't even name a third comic book publisher.
No.
You know,
right?
It's like, you know, Crystals, you know, to Burger King and McDonald's, or White Castle. It's like, unless you know White Castle or Crystals or Whataburger, you know, you don't know. You know these two big things,
right?
And that's it.
Yep. Don't worry. Someone in the comments will be like, "You guys never heard of Image Comics?" Yes, bitch, we have. He's just making a fucking point. Calm the fuck down. Shit. It's okay. It happens, you know. But now here's why Fantastic Four paved the way for X-Men, Thor, Iron Man, all these other characters, because when Marvel saw the success of Fantastic Four, they gave Stan and Jack Kirby the freedom to do whatever the fuck they wanted. So I don't know that if they didn't have this success, would they have greenlit the X-Men and characters like that, right? Like,
no, absolutely not. Because again, we discussed earlier, a lot of these characters came out of the mind of Stan Lee,
right?
Not Jack Kirby,
correct?
Right. So if he would have walked out, then those things would have never, emerged.
And if this wasn't successful, they would have never said, "Yeah, do whatever you want with these characters."
Absolutely.
They would have been like, "Make us one like that, like they did here. Give us a team."
Right.
Stan just took advantage of it and was like, "I'll give you a team, all right. It's going to be some shit you've never seen before."
Correct.
And then they were like, "Yeah, make Spider-Man whatever you want." Like, would they allowed him? Because even when he made Spider-Man, there was a lot of pushback about who wants to see a teenager superhero.
Right.
And Stan's like, "Oh, watch this, motherfucker." But if Fantastic Four wasn't successful, Spider-Man probably wouldn't exist the way he does today because they wouldn't give him free reign.
Correct.
You know? So Fantastic Four paved the way, dude. So all right, that's my little yapathon there. But you are probably a bigger Fantastic Four fan than myself. You think it's an accurate statement?
Yes.
Yes. And this was like when you got into comics, were they some of the first comics you read? Like, who were your first characters?
The very first comic book character I was actually even introduced to was, of course, Superman.
Okay.
Like the Christopher Reeves thing.
Yep.
But the first comic books I started reading were the Avengers, the X-Men.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. But you've done a big deep dive into Fantastic Four. Or no? Early
Not really.
on?
Not really. I mean, not as much as I have other comics.
Okay.
Because to me, the Fantastic Four they were a family. They were cool. I like Reed because of his scientific mind and the tech.
Would you say you connected with him more than the other three?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, Johnny was shit. Sue at the time, they had, she was the secretary when I started reading her.
Right.
Meaning her powers weren't nowhere near what they are now.
Right.
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 And Thing was just a strong man. I mean, they had plenty of those in comic books.
Right.
But Reed was this anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
He's like had everything. So I gravitated toward him. I gravitated toward, Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. And he plays a big, big part of like that recent, I say recent now, it's like 10 years old, but that Hickman run that leads up to Secret Wars, Reed's an integral part of that, which is why, regardless of the fact that it's Pedro Pascal,
right?
But but it's why I'm excited that he is going to be a centerpiece of the MCU because of that's who he's the centerpiece in the comics a lot of times.
Right.
It's just it's unfortunate that there's no Tony Stark for him to be on screen across from.
Correct.
Because of their dynamic that's what we talk so much about Tony and Steve Rogers, their dynamic in the comics, but Reed and Iron Man, it's a whole nother level with those two.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, you also so in the world of comics, like Reed is the scientific mind with things like the negative zone and shit like that. Tony is the engineering mind. Even though the things that they do and talk about and invent, they cross. Yeah. Like Reed would call Tony and say, "Hey, help me fix this thing," and Tony probably never calls Reed. Right. But it's just interesting how those two brilliant minds, how they connect in the roles that they play scientifically and technologically in the comics.
Right. Absolutely. All right.